Greetings, beloved seekers of truth. Right now, as you're watching this, I need you to stop and listen closely, because what I'm about to reveal could change your entire spiritual life in the next 25 minutes. My name is Thomas Grayson, and on a cold night in February 2023, I died, yes, died, for over 9 minutes during a surgery that went horribly wrong. What Jesus showed me in those moments wasn't just a glimpse of heaven, it was a shocking truth about why so many of God's chosen ones, maybe even you, are drowning in financial hardship despite your prayers, your faith, and your tithing. Are you tired of wondering why the bills keep piling up while others seem to sail through life with ease? Do you feel abandoned, questioning if God's forgotten you? I'm here to tell you, He hasn't. But there's a divine reason you're struggling, and it's more powerful than you can imagine. This isn't just another testimony, it's a wake-up call straight from the throne of grace. And time is running out for you to hear it. Stick with me to the end, because if you miss this, you might miss the key to unlocking the peace and purpose God's been preparing for you. Oh, and before we dive in, did you know most people watching Blessed Horizons aren't even subscribed? Let's change that. Hit that subscribe button right now so you don't miss more life-changing revelations like this one. Tell me in the comments where you're tuning in from. I'd love to feel connected to you, no matter how many miles separate us. Let's walk this journey together and uncover the sacred truth Jesus entrusted me to share. Are you ready? Let's begin. Picture this, my friend. One moment, I'm lying on an operating table, surrounded by the hum of machines and the sharp scent of antiseptic. I'm Thomas Grayson, a 45-year-old carpenter from Ohio, a man who's loved the Lord since I was old enough to sing Amazing Grace in my grandmother's pew. I'd spent years trusting God, giving my tithes even when my wallet was thin, raising my 3 kids alone after life dealt me a tough hand. But that night, February 3rd, 2023, everything I thought I knew about faith and finances was about to be turned upside down. A routine surgery for a torn ligament went wrong, and at 2:47 a.m., my heart stopped. For 9 minutes and 12 seconds, I was gone from this world. But what happened next wasn't the end. It was the beginning of the greatest lesson I've ever learned. As the doctors fought to bring me back, I felt my spirit lift, like a feather. Caught in a gentle breeze, I wasn't scared. I was wrapped in a peace that defies words, a peace Jesus promises in John 16:33 when He says, "In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world." Suddenly I was standing, no, existing, in a place where love wasn't just a feeling but a living force. And then I heard it. Thomas. A voice so tender yet so mighty, it felt like creation itself was speaking my name. I turned, and there He was, Jesus. Not the Jesus of stained glass windows, but the living King, His eyes like oceans of mercy, His presence a fire of holy love. He looked at me and said, "My son, you've wept over empty pockets and unpaid bills. You've wondered why my faithful ones struggle while the world prospers. Today, I'll show you the truth. Beloved, what He revealed next wasn't just for me, it's for you too. It's a sacred answer to the cries you've lifted in the midnight hour, when the weight of financial lack pressed down like a stone. Have you ever felt that? That ache of wondering why God's provision seems delayed? Jesus didn't scold me for those questions. He welcomed them. And as He began to unveil the spiritual reality behind our struggles, I saw something so breathtaking it made me tremble with awe. Stick with me, because this journey is just starting, and what He showed me next will stir your soul in ways you never expected. So there I was, standing before Jesus in this realm where time felt like a river and eternity, like its shore. His eyes locked with mine, and He said, "Thomas, watch closely." Suddenly, the space around us shifted, like a curtain being pulled back, and I saw something I'll never forget. There were people, faithful believers like you and me, kneeling in prayer. I could feel their hearts, single mums counting pennies for groceries, dads skipping meals to pay the rent, tears falling as they asked God, "Why me? Why now?" Their bank accounts were empty, but their faith Oh, it was alive. And then Jesus waved his hand, and I saw it, a glowing shield of light hovering over each one of them. "My son," he said, "this shield you see as lack is my protection. Many of my chosen ones beg for wealth, not knowing it could shatter their souls if it came too soon." I blinked, or whatever you do in a spiritual body, and he showed me what he meant. Imagine this: a humble believer, let's call her Sarah, praying for a financial windfall. In one scene she gets it. A big check lands in her lap. But then I watched her change. She stopped praying at dawn, skipped church to manage her new investments, and slowly her Bible gathered dust. Jesus smiled gently and said, "See, I'd rather prune their prosperity than lose their hearts." It hit me like a hammer on a nail. Sometimes what we call a curse is actually a cradle keeping us safe. Think of King Solomon. Wisdom made him great, but wealth? Ecclesiastes 5:10 warns, "Whoever loves money never has enough." Solomon had it all, yet he drifted. Jesus was showing me that financial struggles aren't always the enemy's attack. Sometimes they're God's fence, guarding us from our own folly. So next time you're staring at an overdue bill, try this. Whisper, "Lord, what are you shielding me from?" It's not about loving poverty, it's about trusting the one who knows when abundance won't break us. And trust me, what he showed me next about the enemy's schemes, it'll make you see those struggles in a whole new light. As Jesus stood beside me, his presence, like a warm fire on a winter's night, he turned and said, "Thomas, look deeper." The scene shifted again, and suddenly I wasn't just seeing believers in prayer, I was seeing the invisible war raging around them. Above those same faithful ones, dark shadows darted like wolves circling a flock. These weren't random spirits, they were deliberate, cunning, and focused. Jesus' voice cut through the chaos. "The enemy knows who carries my anointing. Financial struggles aren't always my doing. Sometimes they're his arrows, aimed at my chosen ones to break their spirits." I watched, jaw dropped, as these dark entities whispered lies. God's abandoned you. Your faith is weak, while piling financial burdens on their targets. One believer, a young man named Daniel, was hit hard. A car repair he couldn't afford, a job loss out of nowhere. But Jesus pointed to him and said, "See his calling? He's destined to lead thousands to me." The enemy fights hardest against those who threaten his dominion. It was like a cosmic game of chess, and Daniel's struggle wasn't failure, it was confirmation. In Matthew 10:22, Jesus warns, "You will be hated by everyone because of me, but the one who stands firm to the end will be saved." The attacks proved his purpose. Here's the kicker, friends. Ever notice how the world's wealthiest often scoff at faith while the struggling cling to it? That's no accident. The enemy wants you distracted, discouraged, counting coins instead of carrying your cross. So next, time the bank account's red, stand tall, pray Ephesians 6:11, put on the full armor of God and declare, "I'm a threat to darkness." It's not about pride, it's about perspective. And oh, what Jesus showed me next about how he turns those battles into blessings. It's a game changer you won't want to miss. With every word Jesus spoke, I felt like a student at the feet of the Master, and believe me, I was all ears. He gestured again, and the scene morphed into a desert, sand stretching endless. Under a blazing sun, I saw the Israelites, God's chosen people, wandering after their exodus from Egypt. "Thomas," Jesus said, "remember how I fed them?" I nodded. Exodus 16 flashed in my mind, where manna rained down daily, just enough for each sunrise. "I could have given them a year's supply," he continued, "but I didn't. Why? Because I wanted them to wake up every morning needing me." It hit me like a ton of bricks, or maybe a ton of heavenly bread. Those Israelites grumbled, just like I did, when the rent was due and my toolbox wasn't bringing in enough. But Jesus smiled, oh that smile, and said, "Your financial struggles are your manna moments. They're not starvation, they're training. I'm teaching you to lean on me daily, not on your savings account." I saw a woman, let's call her Maria, scraping by as a cashier. She prayed over every paycheck, trusting God for the next. And you know what? Her faith grew roots deeper than an oak, while her neighbor with a fat wallet barely looked up from his phone to say grace. Here's a practical nugget, friends. Tomorrow, when you're tempted to panic over that utility bill, try this. Open your Bible to Matthew 6:34, where Jesus says, "Do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself." Then pray, "Lord, give me today's manna." It's not about ignoring reality, it's about rewiring your heart to trust the provider, not the provision. And what he showed me next about how these struggles shape our character, well, let's just say it's the kind of refining fire that turns coal into diamonds. As Jesus guided me through this sacred realm, his voice was like a compass in the wilderness. "Thomas," he said, "look at the fire." The scene shifted, and I saw a blacksmith's forge, flames roaring, metal glowing red hot. But it wasn't iron in the heat, it was us, God's chosen ones, being shaped by financial struggles. "My children pray for gold," Jesus explained, "but they don't see the refining that must come first." He pointed to 1 Peter 1:7, where it says, "Trials test our faith, so that the proven genuineness of your faith, of greater worth than gold, may result in praise, glory, and honor when Jesus Christ is revealed." Suddenly it clicked. Lack isn't just a burden, it's a blacksmith's hammer. I saw a man, call him James, facing foreclosure. He'd tithed, he'd prayed, yet the bank was knocking. In the natural, he looked defeated, but in the spirit, oh friends, his pride was melting away, his trust in money burning off. Like dross, Jesus whispered, "He's not losing a house, he's gaining a heart I can use." It reminded me of Job, stripped of everything in Job 1. Yet by Job 42, his faith shone brighter than his restored riches. We don't love the fire, but we need it. Ever tried cooking a steak raw? Doesn't work. Takes heat to make it good. Same with us. So here's your move. Next time money's tight, don't just ask why. Ask, what's burning away, Lord? Maybe it's impatience, maybe it's materialism. Jot it down, pray over it, and watch God shape you. It's not comfy, but it's holy. And what Jesus revealed next about how this refining ties to your calling, that's where the real treasure starts to gleam. Standing there with Jesus, I felt like a child gazing at the stars. Every word he spoke lit up something new in my soul. "Thomas," he said, "watch how I call my servants." The scene swirled, and I saw a man in shackles, Joseph, sold into slavery in Genesis 37. He was broke, betrayed, and bound. Yet Jesus turned to me and said, his poverty wasn't punishment, it was positioning. Through every trial, I was lifting him to lead a nation. I saw Joseph's journey unfold. From pit to prison to palace, each low place a stepping stone to God's high purpose. And then Jesus looked at me, his eyes piercing. "Your struggles too are the mark of your calling." I saw it play out. A woman, let's say Rachel, losing her job despite her faithfulness. She felt forgotten, but in the spirit, I saw angels guarding her path. Her lack kept her in a small town where she'd later start a ministry that touched hundreds. Jesus chuckled softly. "The enemy thinks he's winning, but I'm the one moving the pieces." It's wild, isn't it? We cry over closed doors, not seeing they're keeping us on the right road. Philippians 1:6 promises, "He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion." Your financial pit might just be the launch pad for your palace. So try this, friend. When the budget's tight, lift your chin and pray, "Lord, where are you positioning me?" Maybe it's to serve someone today, a neighbor, a stranger, with the little you have. That's where calling begins. And what he showed me next about how these struggles build eternal treasures. Oh, it's the kind of wealth no bank can hold. As Jesus held my gaze, his presence felt like a river washing over me, steady and strong. "Thomas," he said, "look beyond what your eyes can see." The scene shifted, and I saw believers, ordinary folks like you and me, facing lean days, One man, Paul, handed his last dollar to a homeless stranger. A woman, Grace, praised God despite a looming eviction. In the natural, they had nothing, but in the spirit. Oh, friends, I saw glowing deposits piling up, like heavenly gold stacking higher with every act of faith. Jesus smiled. These are my true millionaires. Matthew 6:20 says, "Store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy." Their lack is building wealth forever. It reminded me of the widow in Mark 12:42-44, 2 tiny coins, all she had, dropped into the offering. The rich tossed in bags, but Jesus said she gave more. Why? Her heart was the treasure, not her wallet. I laughed to myself. Imagine her heavenly account statement. We chase dollar signs, but God counts faith, joy, generosity. That eviction notice Grace faced, she turned it into a worship session, and I swear the angels were dancing. Jesus nodded. She's richer than she knows. Here's your takeaway. Next time you're short, don't just sigh. Share something. A kind word, a sandwich, a prayer. Watch how it feels. Better than a bonus check, right? That's treasure stacking up where it matters. And what he showed me next about breaking generational chains through these struggles, it's a legacy shift you'll want to hear. Jesus' voice wrapped around me like a warm cloak as he said, "Thomas, look back through time." The scene unfolded like a scroll, and I saw family lines stretching across centuries, fathers, mothers, children, all tied by invisible threads. Some carried blessings, but others, dark chains of debt, greed, and waste weighed them down. Then Jesus pointed to a woman, let's call her Esther, praying over a handful of coins, her kids asleep in a cramped apartment. "She's my chain breaker," he said. "Her struggles aren't just hers. They're a battle for her lineage." I saw her faith snap those threads, rewriting her family's story for generations. It took me straight to Abraham in Genesis 12, called to leave everything, broke in a strange land. Yet God promised, "I will make you a great nation." His obedience shifted his descendants' destiny from nomads to God's people. Esther's story wasn't so different. Every time she trusted God instead of cursing her lack, I saw her kids' future brighten, debt cycles fading, wisdom rising. Jesus grinned. The enemy hates this. He knows one faithful heart can free 100 yet to come. It's not just about your rent, it's about your roots. So here's something to try. Next time you pay a bill with faith, not fear, say, "Lord, I'm breaking chains for my family." Maybe it's teaching your kids to give, not grab. That's legacy in motion. And what he showed me next about his perfect timing in all this, oh, it's a divine clock you'll want to sync with. As Jesus stood with me, his presence a steady anchor, he said, "Thomas, see my timing." The scene spun like a master painter's canvas, and I saw lives interlocking, threads of circumstance weaving together beyond human sight. There was a man, Samuel, pleading for a financial break, pounding on doors that wouldn't budge. Then Jesus waved his hand, and I saw why. Those doors led to traps, shady deals, prideful leaps that would have snared him. Ecclesiastes 3:1 says, "There is a time for everything," Jesus reminded me. "My children cry for now, but I'm crafting perfect." It echoed Habakkuk. God told him in Habakkuk 2:3, "The revelation awaits an appointed time. It speaks of the end and will not prove false. Though it linger, wait for it." Samuel's delay wasn't denial. It was divine choreography. I saw him wait, grow, then step into a blessing that fit like a glove, right when his heart was ready. Jesus chuckled. "Ever try baking bread too soon? Doughy mess. Timing matters. We rush, but God's clock ticks with eternity in mind, syncing your breakthrough with purposes you can't yet see. Here's your move. When impatience creeps in over money, pause, breathe, pray, "Lord, align me with your time." Maybe jot down what you're learning in the wait. It's prep for the promise. And what he showed me next about how struggles guard your purpose. That's a shield you'll thank him for. Jesus' eyes sparkled with wisdom as he said, "Thomas, watch how I protect my own." The scene unfolded like a living map. And I saw a woman, let's call her Lydia, dreaming big. She wanted to chase opportunities, a business deal here, a move there. But her finances, barely a trickle. She'd cry, "Lord, why tie my hands?" Then Jesus peeled back the veil and I saw the truth. Those opportunities were detours, glitzy traps that would have pulled her from her true calling, a quiet ministry feeding the hungry. "I use lack as a guardrail," he said, "keeping my chosen ones on the narrow path." It took me to Matthew 7:13-14, where Jesus says, "Small is the gate and narrow the road that leads to life, and only a few find it." Lydia's tight budget wasn't a cage. It was a compass, steering her to soup kitchens instead of boardrooms. I saw her ladle out stew, her smile brighter than any paycheck. Jesus nudged me. She thought I was holding out. I was holding her close. Ever feel stuck, friends? Maybe God's not saying no. He's saying not there. So here's a tip. Next time cash stops a plan, ask, "Lord, where's the narrow road?" Maybe volunteer somewhere simple. Your purpose might bloom in the unglamorous. And what he showed me next about contentment, in the struggle. That's freedom worth more than gold. Jesus' voice was like a melody as he said, "Thomas, see where true riches lie." The scene blossomed, and I saw believers in all walks, some with full plates, others scraping by. One man, Philip, sat in a tiny apartment, bills stacked high, yet his face glowed with peace. "He's learned my secret," Jesus said, pointing to Philippians 4:11-12, where Paul writes, "I have learned to be content whatever the circumstances, whether well-fed or hungry." Philip wasn't rich in dollars, but in trust, a billionaire. Jesus grinned, "The world chases more. My children find enough in me." It's like the early disciples, fishermen with patched nets, yet they turned the world upside down because their joy wasn't tied to coins. Philip hummed a hymn over his ramen, and I swear it sounded richer than a symphony. Contentment isn't having everything, Jesus said. It's needing only me. We're wired to grumble. I've done it. But Philip flipped the script. Ever tried smiling at a zero balance? Takes guts, but that's where freedom hides. Here's your challenge. Next time lack stings, don't curse. Count blessings. Literally, grab a pen, list 5 things God's given you today. Pray, "Lord, you're my enough." It's not denial, it's defiance against despair. And what he showed me next about stewardship in these lean times, that's the key to unlocking what's ahead. As Jesus guided me deeper, his words landed like seeds in fertile soil. "Thomas," he said, "look at what I've entrusted." The scene shifted, and I saw a young woman, call her Naomi, counting coins for groceries. She'd prayed for more, but her hands stayed near empty. Then Jesus pointed to Luke 16:10. "Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much." She's learning stewardship, he explained. "I don't withhold to punish, I prune to prepare." I saw Naomi budget every penny, give a dime to a beggar, and still thank God. Her little was becoming holy. Think of the boy with 5 loaves and 2 fish in John 6. Small stuff, right? But in Jesus' hands it fed thousands. Naomi's coins weren't just survival, they were a classroom. "Many squander plenty," Jesus said, "then wonder why I don't add more." I chuckled. Guilty as charged, Lord. I've blown cash on dumb stuff too. But Naomi? Her thrift was building trust, proving she'd handle abundance without losing her soul. Here's your play. Next time you've got just enough, manage it like it's a million. Track it. Share a bit, pray over it. "Lord, teach me to steward small." It's not about shame, it's about shaping. And what he showed me next about how struggles fuel your testimony, that's the spark that'll light up lives. Jesus' gaze held me steady as he said, "Thomas, see the ripple." The scene opened and I saw a man, let's call him David, sharing his story at a small church. He'd fought through years of scraping by, yet his voice rang with hope. God never left me. Around him, faces lit up. Widows, Workers, kids, all nodding, tears in their eyes. Your struggles aren't just yours, Jesus said. They're a lamp for others. I saw David's lean days turn into a beacon, proving 2 Corinthians 1:4 true. He comforts us in all our troubles, so that we can comfort those in any trouble. It's like Paul and Silas in Acts 16, beaten, chained, broke, yet singing in prison. Their faith shook the jail, freed them, and saved the guard's family. David's tale wasn't fancy, just real. I paid that bill by faith, he said, and God showed up. Someone in the pews whispered, if he made it, I can too. Jesus winked, ever think I let you stumble so others stand? Oh, friends, we're not solo acts, we're storytellers for his glory. So here's your step. Share a win, however small. Tell a friend, I had $5 left, prayed and got through. Post it in the comments, I'd love to hear. Your messy middle might be someone's miracle start. And what he showed me next about the eternal weight of these trials? That's glory you can't weigh on a scale. Jesus' voice was a thunder of love as he said, Thomas, lift your eyes higher. The scene flared, and I saw believers, worn by lack yet radiant, standing in a timeless glow. Each struggle they'd faced shimmered like gold in their spirits. This is their glory, Jesus said, echoing 2 Corinthians 4:17. Our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. I saw a woman, Sarah, who'd lost everything, job, savings, hope, yet clung to God. In the spirit, her trials weren't losses, they were crowns piling up for eternity. It hit me like Peter's trials, sifted by Satan in Luke 22:31, yet Jesus prayed his faith wouldn't fail. Peter stumbled, broke, but rose to lead thousands because the fire forged him. Sarah's empty fridge, same deal. She's not just surviving, Jesus said, she's shining forever. We groan over pennies, friends, but God's stacking treasures beyond time. Ever lost sleep over a bill, then felt peace creep in? That's glory whispering. Here's your anchor. When lack weighs you down, pray, Lord, show me the eternal gain. Maybe it's patience, maybe it's grit, name it, thank him for it. Your story's not ending in red ink, it's heading to radiance. And what he left me with as I returned, that's the promise you'll carry from here. And so, friends, as I awoke from those 9 minutes and 12 seconds beyond the veil, Jesus' final words burned in my soul. Tell them I've never forgotten them. Tell them their breakthrough's coming, my way, my time. Your financial struggles? They're not punishment, they're protection, preparation, a holy fire forging you for a purpose that echoes into eternity. Don't miss this. God's writing your story, and every tear's a stroke of his pen. What's your takeaway today? Drop it in the comments. How's this shifted your view of faith and finances? I'm dying to hear. If this hit home, smash that like button and share it with someone who needs it. Let's spread this light. Oh, and subscribe, hit that bell too, because tons of you are watching but not locked in for more. Don't miss what's next, how prayer rewires your destiny, popping up on your screen now. I'm Thomas Grayson, blessed to walk this with you. See you soon.